kasama ka, may kapuso ka. Si Jazz, tara may kasama ka, may kapuso ka. Si Jazz,
An eagle's eye for detail, a map that leads to success. But what happens when the path to learning is blurry, confusing,
and going nowhere? Today, we search for answers. Today, we uncover the DNA of excellence in education. They are the promises of every lesson, the destination of every student. We call them learning outcomes. In the world of outcome-based education or OBE, one thing reigns supreme, the result. But don't be confused by the technical jargon. When we talk about learning outcomes, we are talking about the learner.
our investigation reveals that while teaching objectives states what the teacher does, learning outcomes states what the student can actually perform. Think of it as a torch in a dark forest. When students know their outcomes, they have a definite guide to attain success.
Where do these outcomes begin? We trace the lineage back to the very soul of the institution, its vision and mission.
For public schools, the trail leads straight to the DepEd vision and mission, aiming to produce Filipinos who passionately love their country. From being makajos to makabansa, these core values are the heartbeat of every lesson.
But wait, there's more. To bridge the gap between the school and the real world, these outcomes must also mirror the needs of the industry.
Is every teacher ready for the challenge? We look into the master code. The CHID Memorandum Orders or CMOs from CMO number 74 to 82. These are the standards that ensure every educator can communicate, innovate, and facilitate learning in a globalized world. We uncovered the PPC, the Philippine Professional Standard for Teachers. It's easy to base and the students grant. It is the ultimate roadmap that ensures our teachers are not just proficient, but distinguished.
Not all outcomes are created equal. Some are strong, while others weak. But what makes an outcome good? Our experts say they must be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
From the simple act of remembering to the peak of creating, a good outcome challenges the mind. It is transparent, student-centered, and aligned with the future.
The code is cracked. The map is drawn. Today, we learned that the destination is just as important as the
What
journey.
is the true measure of a student? Is it the hours spent staring at the blackboard or the fire lit within their mind? Today, we investigate the blueprint that defines the future of every classroom.
In the world of outcome-based education or OBE, the spotlight has shifted. We no longer just ask, what did the teacher say? Instead, we ask, what can the student actually do?
The intended institutional outcomes, the broadest of all outcomes, are derived from the institution's vision and mission. From the institutional outcomes, schools derive their graduate attributes, which are also termed student outcomes. Below the institutional outcomes are program outcomes. For the teacher education program, the program outcomes are laid down in the Memorandum Orders from the Commission on Higher Education, CMO number 74 to 80, series of 2017. Higher educational institutions which have their own institutional outcomes that are derived from their VMG or Vision, Mission, and Goals may add program outcomes to these program outcomes issued by CHED. More specific than the program outcomes are the course outcomes, the outcomes for each subject in the curriculum. Most specific are the learning outcomes which others call intended learning outcomes or student learning outcomes to emphasize that these are the knowledge, skills, and values that students are expected to demonstrate at the end of the lesson. These are the ones assessed in the process of teaching learning and are expected to be demonstrated at the end of the lesson.
This is the meaning of learning outcomes. It is the specific knowledge, skills, and values that students must demonstrate at the end of their journey. While teaching objectives focus on the teacher's intent, learning outcomes are the hard evidence of the learner's achievement. It is the destination at the end of the
Teaching objectives are not the same as learning outcomes. Teaching objectives are formulated from the point of the teacher, while learning outcomes are formulated from the point of view of the learner. Teaching objectives state what the teacher does, while learning outcomes state specifically what knowledge, skill, or value must be demonstrated by the learner after instruction. There should be no disconnect between teaching objective and learning outcome. In the words of OBE, they must be aligned. Without a clear outcome, education is a ship without a rudder. But with it, the student becomes a master of their craft, ready to face the world with competence and clarity.
The DNA of excellence is no longer a mystery. It is written in the actions of the learner.
Every skyscraper begins with a blueprint. Every journey begins with a map. But in the world of education, where did the maps actually come from?
Today, we trace the DNA of learning. We follow the trail to find the sources of learning outcomes.
Our investigation begins at the very heart, its vision and mission of the school.
Whether it's a public school following a national mandate or a private institution built on a founder's philosophy, the mission is the ultimate source of what a student is expected to become. It is the North Star that guides every lesson plan. The institution's vision and mission statements are a relevant source of student learning expectations. Public schools refer to the public school system vision and mission statements as source of learning outcomes. Private schools are either sectarian or non-sectarian, and their vision and mission statements may be sourced from their respective religious goals. In the case of sectarian schools, or their founder's philosophy in the case of non-sectarian schools.
The vision of the Department of Education. We dream of Filipinos who passionately love their country and whose competencies and values enable them to realize their full potential and contribute meaningfully to building the nation. As a learner-centered public institution, the Department of Education continuously improves itself to better service its stakeholders. The mission of the Department of Education: to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education, where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, safe, and motivating environment. Teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Administrators and staff, as stewards of the institution, ensure an enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen. Family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibility for developing lifelong learners. The Department of Education core values: makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa.
For the vision, a dynamic and diverse internationally recognized university, a dynamic, inclusive, and regionally diverse university in Southern Philippines. Mission: Jose Rizal Memorial State University pledged to deliver effective and efficient services along research, instruction, production, and extension. It commits to provide advanced professional, technical, and technopreneurial training with the aim of producing highly competent, innovative, and self-renewed individuals. Goals: globally competitive educational institution, resilient to internal and external risks and hazards, innovative processes and solutions in research translated to extension engagement, partnerships and collaborations with private enterprise, other HES government agencies and alumni, sound financial management, and participatory governance.
If school teachers observe constructive alignment, then we expect that their teaching learning activities and assessment tasks are aligned with their learning outcomes, what they call learning objectives, which are in turn aligned with the DepEd vision and mission statements. Teacher education institutions must teach the future teachers to align their lessons, learning outcomes, teaching learning activities, and assessment tasks with the DepEd vision and mission statements. But it doesn't stop there. We look to the giants, the regulatory bodies, DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, provide the prescribed standards and policies that ensure every Filipino student is at par with the rest of the world. Policies and competencies and standards issued by the government education agencies such as the Department of Education or DepEd, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA, and the Commission of Higher Education or CHED are prescribed sources of learning outcomes. The DepEd issued the Key to 12 Curriculum Guide that contains the competencies expected to be taught by teachers in the basic education level. It likewise issued by the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers or PPST. TESDA likewise has a list of competencies per course, and CHED has program outcomes and course outcomes for all programs. The PPST from DepEd and the program outcomes of teacher education from CHED are given below.
They are the guardians of the quality, setting the benchmark of every degree and every skill.
To bridge the gap between academe and industry, expected competencies identified by the different professions, business and industry should be adopted to ensure that graduates are able to perform as expected in their respective workplaces or professions. In the Philippines, the various professional regulatory boards of the Professional Regulation Commission have come up with lists of competencies expected of professionals. The Board for Professional Teachers, for example, has a list of these competencies in its Table of Specifications or TOS.
Let us start with the Department of Education, abbreviated as DepEd. In Filipino, it is Kagawaran ng Edukasyon. It was mandated through Republic Act 9155, known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. It is the executive department of the Philippine government responsible for ensuring access to, promoting equity in, and improving the quality of basic education. It is the main agency tasked to manage and govern the Philippine system of basic education. It is the chief formulator of Philippine education policy and responsible for the Philippine primary and secondary school systems. This is the DepEd's vision. The first part of this vision means that the institution dreams of producing students who have love for their country and skilled enough to contribute to their country's progress. On the second part, the concept of learner-centered and continuously improving was emphasized. That is, learning must be done by the students, and teachers must only facilitate learning, which requires the active participation of the learners while doing or delivering the lesson. DepEd's mission is to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education. This mission sees to it that every learner must have access to education. The environment from where the learning happens must be conducive, child-friendly, gender-sensitive, and safe for the learners. The teachers should facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Even administrators, staff, and non-teaching personnel must see to it that the school is very enabling and supportive for effective learning. The teaching and learning process must not only be confined between the teachers and the students. Active engagement of the family, community, and other stakeholders is necessary to develop lifelong learning learners. The image flashed herein is the seal of the department, DepEd Order number 63, series of 2011, elaborated its symbolism. Shield was stylized open hands, supporting the two sea lions representing DepEd as a caring and nurturing institution. The two sea lions holding an open book over a plate symbolize leadership and excellence. And of course, the open book and the lighted torch, radiating its light over the Philippine archipelago, represent the quest for knowledge. The colors were taken from the Philippine flag. Blue signifies peace, red is for burning desire to learn, and golden yellow shows the quest for knowledge. Next is the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, which was created last May 18, 1994 through the passage of Republic Act number 7722, or the Higher Education Act of 1994. It is the governing body covering both public and private higher education institutions, as well as degree granting programs in all tertiary educational institutions in the country. It is the key agency mandated to promote quality higher education and to ensure accessibility to those who may not be able to afford it. CHED ensures that the country's human capital stays competitive by upholding academic freedom and fostering intellectual growth. Vision. CHED envisions a Philippine higher education system that is equitable and producing locally responsive, innovative, and globally competitive graduates and lifelong learners. It is a key leader and effective partner in transforming higher education institutions towards producing highly competent and productive professionals through dynamic, excellent, and client-oriented services. Its mission is to promote equitable access and ensure quality and relevance of higher education institutions and their programs. CHED is committed to provide effective central office direction and implement programs and mechanisms to ensure affordable quality higher education accessible to all. The Technical Education Skills Development Authority, or TESDA. It is the government agency tasked to manage and supervise technical education and skills development in our country, the Philippines. It was created by virtue of Republic Act 7796, or the Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 1994. Its responsibilities include providing policy directions and guidelines for resource allocation for technical, vocational, educational, and training institutions in both the private and public sectors. TESDA envisions to be the transformational leader in the technical education and skills development of the Filipino workforce. That is, to be the leading partner in the development of the Filipino workforce with world-class competence and positive work values. Mission: TESDA sets a direction, promulgates relevant standards, and implements programs geared towards a quality-assured and inclusive technical education and skills development and certification system. It provides direction, policies, programs, and standards towards quality technical education and skill development. To sum it all up, we have three government bodies in the field of education: the Department of Education, or DepEd, for basic education, the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, for tertiary and graduate education, and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, for technical, vocational, and middle-level education.
Finally, we uncover the bridge to the future. Why we learn what we learn? Because the world is waiting. To bridge the gap between the school and the workplace, learning outcomes must reflect industry needs.
For schools to be relevant, they should consider the roles and development goals of national government in the formulation of learning outcomes. Schools are there for society, and society is also there for the schools. In a global world and for global citizenship, the determination of learning outcomes must likewise consider international trends and development. This makes graduates globally competitive. Amid's talk on global citizenship, it is no longer adequate to work for the realization of learning outcomes that are attuned only to local needs. Global needs must be given equal attention to make graduates global who are ready to respond to the needs to both local and global communities. From professional competencies to global trends, the voice of the industry is a vital source that ensures our graduates are not just educated but employable.
The mission is clear, the standard is set, the industry has spoken. When these sources align, excellence is achieved.
The learner. So outcomes versus e-learning objectives or learning objectives. What's the difference? Well, outcomes are all about your learners.
Learners.
This is learner focused. And objectives are all about your subject matter experts. So remember in school, you go to class.
With your little lunch bag.
You got your lunch
Little
money.
apple.
So then you take that apple, you eat it at lunch, and then after lunch you go to your math class, and your teacher's like, all right everyone, today we're gonna go through our objective today, because I'm a subject matter expert, is to learn addition. Okay? We're gonna learn basic addition, how to add one number to the other and get more numbers. The objective is clear, right? The objective that they have for you is for you to learn addition. But what is the outcome for you? The outcome is fast forward 15 years in the future and you can properly file your taxes. But that is the difference between
he's also a CPA.
objectives and outcomes, all right? An objective is when you go into the classroom as a teacher. So our objective, I guess, for this video was we wanted to tell you the difference between outcomes and objectives. But the outcome is now you know, and when you build your program, when you build it, you're going to focus on the outcomes, the learning outcomes, not the learning objectives.
These
outcomes
are the results.
is what you want to focus on.
These
Because it's
are the
learner-based.
This is not only the results, but this is the pain that is being solved for your learner. Remember, in our other videos, we talk about when you're creating e-learning or online learning or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure you understand the biggest challenges that your learners have. An outcome is a learner overcoming those challenges. It's the result. The result. And there's a clear difference between the objective, which is what the subject matter expert is teaching, versus the learner outcome, the outcomes, which is the result that your learner is getting through teaching. We don't just want to teach. We want to make sure that we're teaching with a clear outcome of what the learner is going to be receiving through that teaching. So as a subject matter expert or creating an e-learning program or online course, you really want to understand the biggest challenge, because that's going to influence the objective that you're going to teach, which is going to solve that outcome or produce that outcome, which is solving that big pain point.
Exactly. So you want these to match up. They need to sync up, and they need to sync up from the learner's perspective. So you work backwards. You want to work backwards from the outcome, which is why when we teach about learning objectives, we talk about milestones. So when you are building a program, you need to build it based on milestones. Milestones are the outcomes that your learners achieve on their journey from A to Z. So the LTS statement, we talk about this.
Learner transformation statement, we talk more about this in other videos.
Check it out in our masterclass as well. This is where they start, this is where they end, or the results that they get. And the milestones are the outcomes that they get along the way. They are also the objectives, but the objectives from the learner's perspective. We have another video for you guys to watch all about how to build learning objectives the right way. And the right way is to build them based on outcomes, and they will come.
They are the architects of the soul, the weavers of dreams. But what does it take to become a licensed professional in today's world? Today, we crack the code of the modern educator. We look into the standards that define the future of the classroom. These are the program outcomes for teacher education. Based on the CMO 74-80 series of 2017, the policies, standards, and guidelines for the teacher education program, graduates of all programs in all types of schools, professional institution, college or university, common to all programs in all types of schools. The graduates have the ability to articulate and discuss the latest developments in the specific field of practice, effectively communicate in English and Filipino, both orally and in writing, work effectively and collaboratively with a substantial degree of independence in multidisciplinary and multicultural teams, act in a recognition of professional, social, and ethical responsibility, preserve and promote Filipino historical and cultural heritage based on the Republic Act 7722. Behind the teaching license is a provisional blueprint from CHED, found in CMO number 74 to 82 series of 2017. Common to the discipline, teacher education. First articulated the routineness of education in philosophical, cultural, historical, psychological, and political contexts. Second, demonstrate mastery of subject matter. Third, facilitate learning using a wide range of teaching methodologies and delivery modes appropriate to specific learners and their environments. Fourth is to develop and innovate curricula, instructional plans, teaching approaches, and resources for diverse learners. It isn't about diploma, it is about lifelong learning. A true teacher never stops growing, constantly searching for new ways to touch lives in a globalized world. Common to graduates of a horizontal type of institution, as defined in CMO's 46 series of 2012. First, graduates of professional institutions demonstrate service orientation in their respective professions. Second, graduates of college are qualified for various types of employment and participate in development activities and public discourses, particularly in response to the needs of the communities they serve. Third, graduates of the universities contribute to the generations of new knowledge and participating in various research and development projects. The goal is written. The mission is clear. To teach is to transform.
They are the backbone of the nation, the silent heroes of the future. But in a world that is constantly changing, how do we measure the quality of those who mold our children's minds?
Today, we uncover the ultimate blueprint for excellence in the classroom. This is the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, or the PPST.
In 2017, the PPST is built on 7 domains that define what a quality teacher should know and do.
The program outcomes for the teacher education program in the Philippines must necessarily be based on the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers issued by the Department of Education in Department Order No. 42, Series of 2017. While the program outcomes for teacher education issued by the Commission on Higher Education were based on the PPST, it may be good to present the gist of the professional standards contained in 7 domains, 37 strands. Quality teachers in the Philippines need to possess the following characteristics. Recognize the importance of mastery of content knowledge and its interconnectedness within and across curriculum areas, coupled with a sound and critical understanding of the application of theories and principles of teaching and learning. They apply developmentally appropriate and meaningful pedagogy grounded on content knowledge and current research. They display proficiency in mother tongue, Filipino, and English to facilitate the teaching and learning process, as well as exhibit the needed skills in the use of communication strategies, teaching strategies, and technologies to promote high-quality learning outcomes. Provide learning environments that are safe, secure, fair, and supportive in order to promote learner responsibility and achievement. They create an environment that is learning-focused, and they efficiently manage learner behavior in a physical and virtual space. They utilize a range of resources and provide intellectually challenging and stimulating activities to encourage constructive classroom interactions geared towards the attainment of high standards of learning. Establish learning environments that are responsive to learner diversity. They respect learners' diverse characteristics and experiences as inputs to the planning and design of learning opportunities. They encourage the celebration of diversity in the classroom and the need for teaching practices that are differentiated to encourage all learners to be successful citizens in a changing local and global environment. Interact with the national and local curriculum requirements. They translate curriculum content into learning activities that are relevant to learners and based on the principles of effective teaching and learning. They apply their professional knowledge to plan and design individually or in collaboration with colleagues, well-structured and sequenced lessons that are contextually relevant, responsive to learners' needs, and incorporate a range of teaching and learning resources. They communicate learning goals to support learner participation, understanding, and achievement. Apply a variety of assessment tools and strategies in monitoring, evaluating, documenting, and reporting learners' needs, progress, and achievement. They use assessment data in a variety of ways to inform and enhance the teaching and learning process and programs. They provide learners with the necessary feedback about learning outcomes that informs the reporting cycle and enables teachers to select, organize, and use sound assessment processes. Establish school community partnerships aimed at enriching the learning environment as well as the community's engagement in the educative process. They identify and respond to opportunities that link teaching and learning in the classroom to the experiences, interests, and aspirations of the wider school community and other key stakeholders. They understand and fulfill their obligations in upholding professional ethics, accountability, and transparency to promote professional and harmonious relationships with learners, parents, schools, and the wider community. Value personal growth and professional development and exhibit high personal regard for the profession by maintaining qualities that uphold the dignity of teaching such as caring attitude, respect, and integrity. They value personal and professional reflection and learning to improve their practice. They assume responsibility for personal growth and professional development for lifelong learning. Learning outcomes in teacher education subjects must take into consideration the program outcomes laid down by CHED and the Philippine Professional Standards for Professional Teachers issued by the Department of Education. In summary, when teacher formulates his or her learning outcomes, he or she takes into consideration the institutional outcomes, the program outcomes from the CHED, the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, and the DepEd vision and mission statements since DepEd is the main employer of teacher education graduates.
Teachers play a crucial role in improving the quality of the teaching and learning process. Hence, enhancing teacher quality ranks foremost in the many educational reform efforts towards quality education.
In August 2017, the Department of Education Secretary Leonor Briones signed into policy Department Order No. 42, stipulating the national adoption and implementation of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers.
Our dear teachers in the Department of Education, I am very pleased, I'm honored to introduce to you this explainer video on the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, which you can utilize to help you further find out and develop better and more effective ways of teaching your various fields. It is said that the quality of an education system cannot exceed the quality of our teachers. And this is something which we in the department recognize, not only the department, but the rest of the country as well. And we hope that with this, you will further develop ways to make your learners be more creative, to be more analytical, and to prepare them for lifelong learning. Because after all, we know that learning does not stop with formal schooling. Learning is a lifetime experience and it is a lifetime journey. This was developed through years of rigorous research and consultations which were conducted by the Research Center for Teacher Quality, involving many of you teachers, because you are also consulted. Of course, we want to hear the experiences of the best, the most effective teachers. And we'd also like to thank the Australian government for supporting the Philippine government in this very important work.
Over 3 years, thousands of teachers, school heads, supervisors, teacher educators, and stakeholders around the Philippines contributed to the development and validation of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers articulates teacher quality through well-defined domains, strands, and indicators.
It is a public statement of professional accountability, helping teachers reflect on their own practice as they aspire for personal growth and engage in professional development.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers complements the reform initiatives on teacher quality, such as the K-12 reform, the Philippine Qualifications Framework, the ASEAN integration and internationalization, and the changing character of the 21st century learners.
The standards defines what teachers are expected to know, be able to do, and value in their profession.
From undergraduate preparation to leadership in the teaching profession.
It supports teachers to know where they are in terms of practice, what is expected of them, and how they can improve to reach the next level.
Beginning teachers are expected to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of teaching principles and strategies.
Proficient teachers are expected to independently apply teaching principles and strategy.
Highly proficient teachers are expected to consistently display a high level of performance in their teaching practice, mentor colleagues, and work collegially with other staff.
Distinguished teachers are expected to embody the highest standard for teaching, grounded in global best practices, and lead colleagues in promoting quality teaching and learning.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers articulates distinctive areas of the teaching profession into 7 domains.
Domain 1. Content knowledge and pedagogy. Quality teachers know what to teach and how to teach it.
Domain 2. Learning environment. Maintain a learning-focused environment.
Domain 3. Diversity of learners. Respond to learner diversity.
Domain 4. Curriculum and planning. Plan and design effective instruction.
Domain 5. Assessment and reporting. Use a variety of assessment tools to inform and enhance the teaching and learning process.
Domain 6. Community linkages and professional engagement. Establish school-community relationships and uphold professional ethics.
Domain 7. Personal growth and professional development. Engage in professional reflection and assume responsibility for personal and professional learning.
In summary, the 7 domains are content knowledge and pedagogy,
Learning environment,
diversity of learners,
curriculum and planning,
assessment and reporting,
community linkages and professional engagement,
personal growth and professional development.
These domains comprise 37 strands that refer to more specific dimensions of teacher practice.
Each strand has indicators which describe concrete, observable, and measurable teacher practices per career stage.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers is internationally compliant, K-12 aligned, and Philippine contextualized.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers, based on Department Order 42, shall be used as a basis for all learning and development programs for teachers to ensure that teachers are properly equipped to effectively implement the K-12 program.
All performance appraisals for teachers shall be based on the professional standards.
The Professional Standards provides a common language for teachers, teacher educators, and other stakeholders to make sense of the various tools, performance management systems, and initiatives of the Department of Education.
Over time, the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers will become the new yardstick for teacher professional learning, career development, appointment, retention, promotion, and rewards.
The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers captures the voice of the profession.
The Philippine Professional Standard for Teachers, for teachers who are committed to improving learners' outcome.
This explainer video was made possible through the leadership of the Department of Education Teacher Education Council in collaboration with the Philippine National Research Center for Teacher Quality. The project was supported by the Australian government through the Basic Education Sector Transformation Program.
But the PPST is not a one-size-fits-all. It recognizes that growth is a journey. Whether you are a beginning teacher, proficient, highly proficient, or a distinguished educator, there is a clear path for professional development. It is a standard for all, but a roadmap for each. Quality education begins with quality teachers. The standards is set, the blueprint is ready. It is time to raise the bar.
First question: how do you assess your own professional development based on the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers?
In a perfect world, I'd be a master teacher every single day. But in reality, I assess myself by looking at my growth spurts. When I look at the PPST, I don't just check boxes. I look at my students. If I'm teaching a lesson on Philippine history and I see half the class yawning, I have to be honest with myself. I'm failing domain 1, which is pedagogy, right now. And I assess my professional development by how well I can pivot. Last year, I might have just pushed through the boring lesson. This year, because of the standards, I recognize that I need to develop my skills in ICT integration. So, I spend my weekend watching tutorials on interactive pieces. When I see those same kids leaning forward in their seats on Monday, that's when I know I've moved from a beginning stage to a proficient stage. It's a quiet, personal victory that the PPST helps me put a name to.
Next question: as a teacher, how do you understand Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers?
To be honest, when I first saw the PPST, it looked like a mountain of paperwork. But now, I understand it as a roadmap for when I feel lost. Teaching is overwhelming. There are days when the diversity of learners feels impossible. How do I teach 30 kids who all learn differently? The PPST helps me breathe. It reminds me that I don't have to be perfect at everything at once. It breaks my job down into manageable pieces. I understand it as a common language I share with my principal and my fellow teachers. When I sit down for a meeting, we aren't just complaining about the heat or the lack of chalk. We are talking about domain 2, learning environment. It gives us a professional dignity. It says, what you do is a science and an art. And here is a blueprint for it.
Last question: how does Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers shape a teacher's professional conduct?
The PPST shapes my conduct by making me realize that I am never off the clock as a role model. It's easy to get frustrated and snap at a difficult student or ignore a parent's message on a Sunday night. But then I remember the main 6, which is community linkage. It reminds me that I am a bridge between the school and the home. My professional conduct isn't just about wearing a clean uniform. It's about the patience I show to a struggling parent and the activity I keep when I am out in my local barangay. It makes me more intentional. Before the PPST, I might have just given a test and recorded a grade. Now, I think about the main 5 assessment reporting. I ask myself, am I being fair? Does this grade help the student or does it just punish them? It turns me from someone who just delivers information into someone who nurtures growth. It keeps me honest, it keeps me humble, and it gives me focus on the kids.
Blurred goals leads to blurred results. In the world of education, a vague promise is a teacher's worst enemy.
Today, we dissect the anatomy of excellence. What separates a good goal from a bad one? We reveal the secret code of the golden characteristics.
According to our research, a good learning outcomes must possess a specific trait that truly work.
Characteristics of good learning outcomes. 1. Good learning outcomes are centered on the student or learner. This is the reason why learning outcomes are referred to as student learning outcomes. Good learning outcomes are learner-centered. They describe what the learner is able to do as a result of teaching. Here is an example. The learner is able to write a paragraph that observes unity, coherence, variety. To teach the students how to write a good paragraph is not learner-centered. It is teacher-centered instead. It is a teaching objective, not a learning outcome. Teaching objectives belong to the teacher, while learning outcomes belong to the learner. 2. Good learning outcomes are based on and aligned with the institutional, program, and course outcomes. It is in aligning learning outcomes with institutional outcomes that educational institutions realize their intended institutional outcomes. It is in aligning learning outcomes with intended program outcomes issued by the regulating body, in the case of the Philippines, the Commission on Higher Education, that the program outcomes are also realized. It is in aligning the learning outcomes to the course outcomes that each course of subject in the teacher education curriculum attains its course outcomes. 3. Good learning outcomes are based on and aligned with local, national, and international trends and issues. From the social reconstructionist point of view, schools are not ivory towers. They are expected to help address social problems and so for relevance. It is necessary that learning outcomes are based on and aligned with current issues. Aligning learning outcomes with local, national, and international issues ensures teaching learning that is relevant and attuned to local and global world of learners. 4. Good learning outcomes are known and are very well understood by both students and faculty. The learning outcomes are no secret for the teacher only. In fact, in OBE and OBTL, the teacher starts the lesson with a clarification of the learning outcomes to ensure that each student knows what is or are expected of him or her. Some teachers have the commendable practice of writing the learning outcomes on the board. 5. Good learning outcomes include a spectrum of thinking skills, from simple remembering to creating, or from the lowest and simplest cognitive, an instructural process to cognitive in Bloom's and Anderson's revised taxonomy of objectives.
Other than Bloom's taxonomy, the most popular among taxonomies of objectives are other taxonomies of learning objectives that include simple thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. All of these taxonomies of objectives include objectives from the lowest to the highest levels.
Bloom's taxonomy is a framework that helps us understand how we learn and think about different things. It was originally proposed by an educational psychologist, Benjamin Bloom, in 1956, and it has been revised several times since then, with the latest revision being in 2001. Bloom's taxonomy is important in education because it helps teachers set clear learning goals, design effective lesson plans, and create meaningful assessments. Breaking down learning objectives into different levels of complexity allows educators to scaffold instruction and support students at various skill levels. It also encourages critical thinking and problem-solving skills by emphasizing higher order cognitive processes like analysis, evaluation, and creativity. Ultimately, Bloom's taxonomy helps students develop a deeper understanding of the subject matter and prepares them for success in school and beyond. So, what is it? Essentially, it is a ladder with 6 steps. Each step represents a different level of thinking. The bottom steps are easier, while the top steps are more challenging. Let's take a closer look at each step or level. The first step is remembering. It involves recalling or recognizing information, concepts, or ideas without understanding them deeply. For example, remembering a historical date or a mathematical formula. The second step up is understanding. This is when you can explain what you have remembered in your own words. So if you remembered a historical date, understanding would mean you could explain why that date was important. The third step up is applying. This is when you can use what you have learned in new situations or contexts. It involves using information in a practical way to solve problems, perform tasks, or analyze situations. For example, if you learned a math formula, applying it means you can use it to solve different kinds of problems. The fourth step is analyzing. At this level, you break down information into a few components and see how they relate to each other. It's where you identify patterns, make connections, or distinguish between different elements. It's like taking something apart to see how it works. The fifth step is evaluating. This level involves making judgments or assessments about the value of ideas or materials. You decide whether something is good or bad, useful or not. The last step is creating. It's the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, and it involves generating new ideas, products, or solutions based on previously acquired knowledge or skills. This is when you can put all the pieces together to make something new. So basically, Bloom's taxonomy helps teachers understand and plan what kind of thinking they want to encourage in their students, from basic remembering to advanced creating. Now, let me give you a practical example. Let's use Bloom's taxonomy to teach the word pizza. Step 1. Remember. At this level, you want your students to recall the word pizza and its basic characteristics. Show the picture of a pizza and ask students to repeat the word pizza after you. Draw a simple word web to introduce the basic features of pizzas. Ask students to make simple sentences. Here's an example.
Okay, class, today we're going to learn about pizzas. Tell me what you know, please. Anyone? 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 Yes. Pizza is round. Round. Correct. Good sentence. Pizzas are round. Well done. Anybody else? Yes, please. Pizza is made of dough. Made of dough. Very good. Yes. Pizzas are made of dough. Great job. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, please. Pizza has cheese on top. Yes, that's right. Pizzas have cheese on top. Good one. I like it. One more. One more. Can anybody give me one more? Yes. Yes, please. Pizza is tasty. Pizza is delicious. Excellent. Yes, pizzas are tasty. I love pizza too.
Step 2. Understand. At this level, you want your students to be able to say and understand what a pizza is. Ask more complicated questions.
What is pizza? Pizza is yummy food with cheese, tomato sauce, and other tasty things on top. It is round, like a smile. Where does pizza come from? Pizza comes from Italy, but it's popular everywhere. Why do people like pizza? People love pizza because it's delicious and it's fun to eat with family and friends. What kind of pizza do you like? I like cheese pizza the most. It's super simple to make and it's super tasty. But sometimes I like pepperoni pizza as well because it has this spicy meat on top.
Step 3. Apply. At this level, ask your students to apply their understanding of pizza to real-life situations. Provide students with a pizza cutout, a pizza drawing, or a pizza recipe. Ask them to label the different parts of the pizza, such as crust, sauce, cheese, and toppings.
How do you make simple pizza? First, make the dough for the crust. Next, spread sauce on the dough. Then add your favorite toppings. Finally, sprinkle cheese on top and bake it until it's done.
Step 4. Analyze. At this level, ask your students to analyze the different components and variations of pizzas. Provide students with pictures or actual samples of various types of pizzas. For example, cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, margarita pizza, veggie pizza. Use a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram to identify similarities and differences among the pizzas, such as toppings, crust thickness, and flavors.
How are margarita pizza and pepperoni pizza different? Margarita pizza has basil leaves, while pepperoni pizza has pepperoni. How are they the same? Both have cheese and tomato sauce. Both are round and yummy.
Step 5. Evaluate. At this level, ask your students to evaluate their preferences for different types of pizzas. Put your students into groups or pairs. Tell them that they are food critics. Their job is to sample slices of different pizzas and express their opinions about which pizzas they like best and why.
Wow, I really enjoyed the margarita pizza because the fresh basil leaves gave it a nice herby flavor that balanced well with the tomato sauce and creamy cheese. The crust was crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, making each bite delightful. The pepperoni pizza was too spicy for me, but I still like the cheese and sauce.
Step 6. Create. At this level, ask your students to create their own imaginary pizzas with unique toppings. Provide students with blank pizza templates or drawing materials and ask them to design their dream pizzas. Encourage creativity by allowing them to come up with unusual and imaginative toppings. Afterwards, students can present their pizzas and describe their creations to the class.
McTighe and Wiggins, in their Understanding by the Design, describe 4 key types of educational goals: knowledge, basic skills, long-term understanding, and long-term transfer goals. They also cited 6 facets of understanding. Knowledge goals specify the knowledge that students should know, while basic skills state what students should be able to do. Understanding goals refer to students' grasp of big ideas. Long-term transfer goals refers to student capacity to apply what they have learned to new situation or different contexts. Long-term transfer goals are often transdisciplinary in nature. They encompass complex skills like critical thinking, collaboration, developmental habits of mind, such as persistence and self-regulation, according to McTighe 2018.
Hi, I'm Jay McTighe. I'm an education author and consultant, and my main work is around Understanding by Design, which is a framework for curriculum planning, for assessment design, and ultimately for teaching, with the goal of teaching for understanding and transfer. The key ideas in Understanding by Design are contained in its title, and there are 2. Number 1, we propose that we teach and assess for understanding and transfer. And some people would say, well, of course, doesn't every teacher want their students to understand what they teach? Well, perhaps, but the devil's in the details. To say we're committed to teaching for understanding raises an immediate question. What's worth understanding in all of the content that we could teach? And this is a challenge for teachers because every subject area has so much content. And there are also some things we value in school that transcend subject or discipline areas, like critical thinking, creativity, the ability to work with others. So the challenge of so much that we could teach is addressed in part by saying, but what's most worth understanding? And we propose in a straightforward way that what we want students to understand are the larger transferable concepts and processes within and across subjects. If we're clear about those big ideas that we want students to understand, it gives us a way of prioritizing our teaching and focusing our curriculum. It also implies that we're going to assess for understanding, meaning just because a student knows things doesn't mean they understand it. So it suggests that our assessments include not just tests of facts or basic skills, but assessments that have students to show their understanding through transfer. Can you use what you've learned in a new situation? Can you explain it in your own words? Can you teach it to someone else? So the first part of UBD is teaching and assessing for understanding, ultimately with the goal of having kids transfer their learning. And our curriculum planning is done accordingly. The second big idea in Understanding by Design is by design. And we refer to a process that we call, quote, backward design, where we're planning backward from the end, and the end is understanding and transfer. Not covering content, not marching through textbooks, not doing fun activities only. We're teaching and assessing for understanding and transfer, and we plan backward for that. The idea of backward design or backward planning is certainly not new. We do it when we plan a vacation. We do it when we design a house. But in teaching, it's sometimes the case that teachers tend to get perhaps somewhat narrowly focused on all the material they have to cover or marching through a textbook. And that's not backward design. That's just covering things. So backward design is a way of thinking, a way of planning, and in UBD we have a planning template that guides teachers in this process. Those are the 2 big ideas of Understanding by Design. people who have been introduced to understanding by design and want to extend it further, there are a few pieces of advice I'd offer. I'm going to start with teachers. Understanding by design is, I believe, a rich and effective planning framework for planning from curriculum standards or national curriculum or achievement outcomes. But it's not a simple planning framework. And when people get into it, they realized it's not easy necessarily. So my advice accordingly is for teachers to think big, start small, and go for an early win. And by that I mean, think big. If you like the Understanding by Design framework, think about maybe 2-3 years from now that you want most of your teaching planned in this way. But start small. This is hard to do. It's hard to do well. And so don't kill yourself. Start with maybe 1 or 2 units a year. If possible, work with a colleague or a team. Try your unit out, revise it based on how it works and what didn't work. And you will find that in so doing, you'll better understand the process. The next unit you develop will be easier. And over time, it will become a way of thinking. The go for the early win part of my advice is to suggest that as a teacher, don't pick your toughest unit or a brand new one you've never taught or one you really don't like. Pick your favorite, pick a unit that has really worked for you in the past. Use Understanding by Design to embellish and enhance it. That's an early win, and it's easier to build from that than trying to do too much too soon and just overwhelming yourself. Now for school leaders, the same maxim applies. Think big. If you think the Understanding by Design framework is important and useful, think about how 2, 3, 4 years from now you'd like to see it as the lingua franca in your school, the framework that everyone knows and works with. But that's a long-term goal. Start small. So invite a small group of teachers to try their hand at planning a UBD unit. Let them do it in a team if at all possible. Maybe you even get a substitute or release day for them to work on it and let them try it out. Having a small number of teachers try out UBD and get comfortable with it and see its value will then help you sell it to larger groups. So think big with a long-term goal for your school. Start small, start with volunteers or a small group, and go for an early win. Invite the people who you think will like this, who resonate with this kind of teaching and planning, and who are open and interested in trying new things. One of the best ways of killing UBD at the school level is for a school leader to mandate it for everyone without proper training, support, or rationale of why we're doing this. Think big, start small, involve a volunteer group of teachers, and build from there.
Pink's taxonomy for significant learning includes: first is caring, developing new feelings, interests, and values. Second is learning how to learn, becoming a self-directed learner. Third is integration, means connections. Fourth is human dimensions, learning about self and others. And fifth is application, like skills, critical creativity, and practical thinking. And sixth is foundational knowledge, understanding and remembering.
The Fink's taxonomy of significant learning for its valuable and inspiring nature, as it encompasses more than just cognitive learning. While the right-hand side of this taxonomy addresses the familiar cognitive learning aspects found in Bloom's taxonomy, the left-hand side delves further into specific skills that facilitate significant learning. This encompasses learning that extends beyond the course's conclusion and encompasses caring goals such as values and attitudes, human dimension goals such as self-knowledge, cultural awareness, and collaboration skills, and learning how to learn goals means metacognition and self-regulation. Similar to Bloom's taxonomy, the Fink's taxonomy of significant learning features 6 primary categories of learning. However, unlike Bloom's, these categories are not viewed as distinct domains, but rather as interactive and non-hierarchical. This non-hierarchical nature is especially significant as it signifies when students attain any one type of learning, it also aids them in achieving other types of learning. Let us discuss the meaning and examples of each category. Category number 1, foundation knowledge. It means students will understand and remember key concepts terms, relationships, facts, and gain essential understanding. You can see some examples on the screen. Number 2, application. In this category, student will know how to do important tasks, apply knowledge, deep thinking abilities, including critical, creative, practical thinking, or perform skills. You can see the examples on the screen. Category number 3, integration. Students will be able to identify relationships, make connections between ideas within and outside of the course. You can see some examples on the screen. Category number 4, human dimension. For self, student will better understand themselves, their identities, and their strengths and areas for growth. For others, students will be able to understand others and interact positively and productively. You can see some relevant example on the screen. Category number 5, caring. Students will care more deeply about something, value or appreciate something. You can see some examples on the screen. Finally, learning how to learn. Students will develop the ability to learn better, develop learning skills in this course and in life in general. You can see some examples on the screen. Implementing Fink's taxonomy offers several benefits. By encompassing cognitive, affective, and practical dimensions, it fosters a deeper and more meaningful learning experience. This approach also nurtures skills such as critical thinking, collaboration, and metacognition, which are highly valuable in the 21st century workforce. Furthermore, Fink's taxonomy promotes personal growth, empathy, and ethical decision-making skills, preparing learners for active participation in society.
The structure of the observed learning outcome or SOLO is a means of classifying learning outcomes in terms of their complexity. Learning becomes more complex as it progresses. Teaching learning begins with one or few aspects of the task, then tackling several aspects of the task unrelated and so tasks that are independent of each other, then integrating the multiple aspects into a whole, and finally, generalizing into something abstract. In summary, all the taxonomies of objectives or outcomes discussed in the foregoing paragraphs begin with the cognitive process at the lowest level becoming more complex and higher in level as one goes higher in the taxonomy of objectives. Good learning outcomes are concerned not only with the cognitive process in the lower level like remembering, but also with more complex outcomes in the higher cognitive level such as applying, evaluating, and creating. Good learning outcomes are SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. To discuss everything that you learned from this course is not a good learning outcome. It is not specific. But to illustrate with a concrete example at least 5 principles of learning is a good learning outcome. Good learning outcomes are stated using behavioral terms. Good learning outcomes are useful and relevant to the learners. The learning outcomes are for the learners to attain at the end of the lesson. It is easier for the learners to realize the learning outcomes if they are of use and of relevance to them. If the learning outcomes are relevant, the learners see the importance or significance of realizing the learning outcomes in their life. It is quite difficult for learners to learn something which has no relevance to their life.
Marzano's new taxonomy. Marzano's new taxonomy, developed by educational expert Robert J. Marzano, is a refined version of the original Bloom's taxonomy. It aims to improve instructional practices and enhance student learning outcomes. Unlike Bloom's taxonomy, Marzano's model focuses on both cognitive processes and knowledge dimensions, making it a more comprehensive framework. To implement Marzano's new taxonomy effectively, educators should first understand its structure. The taxonomy consists of 4 domains: a knowledge domain, self-system domain, metacognitive domain, and cognitive processes domain. Each domain plays a crucial role in engaging students' minds, promoting critical thinking, and developing key academic skills. In the knowledge domain, teachers should ensure that students acquire and comprehend vital information within the subject area. This involves using various instructional strategies such as reading assignments, discussions, and multimedia resources to foster deep understanding. Moving to the self-system domain, educators assist students in developing personal strategies for goal setting, monitoring their progress and reflecting on their learning. This not only helps build their metacognition but also cultivates a sense of ownership over their education. In the metacognitive domain, teachers encourage students to think about their thinking. They guide them in understanding their cognitive processes, boosting their problem-solving abilities, and developing effective learning strategies. Lastly, the cognitive process domain focuses on the specific thinking skills students need to master. This includes analyzing, evaluating, applying, comprehending, and synthesizing new information. Different instructional methods like project-based learning and problem-solving activities can be employed to facilitate this domain effectively. To better illustrate the implementation of Marzano's new taxonomy, let's consider a science lesson. A teacher could introduce the concept of the water cycle, which is the part of a knowledge domain, using visual aids and real-world examples. They would then guide students in setting goals for understanding the water cycle. It will come inside the self-system domain and teach strategies to monitor their progress and revise their understandings, which will come in the metacognitive domain. Finally, the teacher would assign a project requiring students to analyze the impact of human activity on the water cycle, which will cover cognitive process domain. Now let's explore the key difference between Marzano's new taxonomy and Bloom's taxonomy. While the original means Bloom's taxonomy focused primarily on cognitive processes, Marzano's version incorporates vital domains related to thinking skills and metacognition. By including these additional dimensions, Marzano's taxonomy allows for a more integrated and holistic approach to students' learning. In conclusion, Marzano's new taxonomy offers educators a comprehensive framework to enhance instructional practices effectively. By engaging students in various domains, teachers can promote deeper understanding, develop critical thinking, and foster metacognitive skills. It is an invaluable tool for educators aiming to create a dynamic and engaging learning environment.
Finally, good outcomes cover a spectrum of thinking skills. From simple remembering to the highest level of creating, they encourage the students to grow through every stage of Bloom's and Solow taxonomies. Precision in the goal leads to perfection in the result. When the outcome is marked, the future is bright.